Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a real good show for you today. All right, folks, here we go. Yep, it's over. No bowl ban. And we've got some folks that are upset. Pat Forday is distraught over this decision. And the Vols have come out with a real good decision. Now, it wasn't perfect, but, you know, we knew there was something coming down the road. And we'll get into that in a minute. But no bowl ban, a fine, some additional scholarships, which is exactly what we've talked about for months. And while there's a lot of haters out there that are desperate for the Vols to receive all kinds of punishments, huge scholarship reduction, bowl bans and all that, got one thing to tell you.
Shut up!
Exactly. Hush. Just so you're here, been talking all this time about NCAA. We need you here. Don't be here, be here. And here, let's get into the punishment. It says Tennessee football's light punishment is a sign of a new era at the NCAA. This is from our good friend Pat Forday, who absolutely cannot stand the Vols. He has worn them out every chance he's gotten. He loves to get on Twitter. He wore us out about not hiring Greg Schiano and wasn't happy about that. Then he was unhappy about our basketball team beating his Duke Blue Devils and all that kind of stuff. So we've taken a lot of grief from him, and he had to go ahead, and I knew he would. There was no way he was going to leave this alone. He's been watching this closely, and he's probably really sad today. He wanted the Vols to be heavily punished, and it just didn't happen for you, Pat. I'm sorry about that, but you're just going to have to deal with it. It says the Volunteers avoided a postseason ban, but the school was fined nearly $9 million. It was actually $8 million, but you know he wants to make it seem higher. It says pour one out for Oklahoma State. The men's basketball program was last one to receive any sort of postseason ban. That was back in 2020. It says, since then, all manner of renegades and con artists have had their day in NCAA infractions court and come away with something less than the ultimate sanction that was bestowed upon Oklahoma State. Times have changed, and the Pokes had the misfortune of being on the wrong side of that shift. The latest beneficiary of a kinder general NCAA is Tennessee football. It was cited Friday by the Infractions Committee. They've committed hundreds of violations in a case that is labeled one of the worst the COI has seen. The then head coach Jeremy Pruitt personally paid recruits and their families. It was actually about $60,000 over 2 years. With brazen violations as well, the Volunteers were a veritable rule-breaking factory, seemingly the only thing Pruitt was good at while going 16-19 in Knoxville. It says the current NCAA penalty structure requires, not recommends, that it requires a postseason ban in this instance, yet the COI deviated from the established guidelines to avoid it. Sign of the times. Kay Norton told Sports Illustrated, the postseason ban is a core penalty now, and indications we've heard is that it's going to remain a core penalty, although maybe it's only applied in the most egregious cases, but is the one of the more effective ones. And then Norton wrote in the case that this case came to the COI at a time of great change for the association. Changes in the infractions process began roughly 2 years ago with the adoption of a new constitution, which is relevant. Said conference regulations must ensure to the greatest extent possible that penalties imposed for infractions do not punish programs or student athletes not involved nor implicated in the infractions. We covered the crap out of that. What it is, you don't want to punish kids who had absolutely nothing to do with something that happened years prior, because it's not fair.
That's not fair!
Don't raise your voice to me.
So they put that in the Constitution, which matters. And it says the implicated adults were slammed. Pruitt got a 6-year show cause penalty and a full season suspension for any school that wants to hire him. Other staffers were assessed sanctions. A booster was disassociated from the program. The penalty of up to $9 million, which that sounds like a lot of money, and realize they're spending a ton more than that just on the baseball facility. And again, I understand it's a lot of money, but for an institution that's spending that kind of money on improvements, it's a drop in the bucket, honestly. And Norton described that the punishment fits the crime calculus. Tennessee can still go bowling, but it cannot profit directly from going bowling. A $9 million hit is significant, even in the revenue-rich SEC. It is exponentially larger than the biggest fine the NCAA had previously administered. But make no mistake, Tennessee would much rather fork over 7 figures than not be able to play in the postseason the next 2 years, especially with an expanded 12-team playoff looming in 2024. And here, the writer says, the hope is the $9 million is taken directly out of the football program's budget instead of making Tennessee's other sports pay the price etc. Tell the rowing, soccer, and swim team it's time to tighten the belts because the football coaches were caught cheating. Whatever. It says, since Tennessee was lauded for its proactive and transparent work investigating its own mess, and realize the school turned over all the evidence. They're the ones, a whistleblower came to them, they investigated, they fired those involved, they brought all the evidence.
Got the evidence! Put the evidence in the car! Put the evidence in the car!
Handed it to the NCAA, self-imposed penalties, 12 scholarships, also a lot of recruiting restrictions. A lot of recruits couldn't come on certain times. They couldn't go visit during certain times. So it's not like they did nothing. They did everything you could after the fact when they found out. You know, when you're sneaking bags, Chick-fil-A bags full of money to players, it's kind of hard to know that's going on. So again, they handed over the evidence. And then he says, this ruling puts a bow on an embarrassing cycle for Tennessee, one in which the school somewhat inadvertently comes out of it much better than when it went in. This all starting with the misguided, here it comes, are y'all ready? Fan mutiny in 2017 when former athletic director John Currie's attempt to hire Greg Schiano. I told you, as football coach was undercut in a disingenuous populist revolt that ultimately cost Currie his job. The replacement AD was Philip Fulmer, former football coach and administrative know-nothing. I mean, just basically called him stupid. Fulmer got the bright idea to hire Pruitt from Nick Saban's staff. The only thing that I will defend Fulmer on this is nobody else wanted the job at the time because it was a huge mess. So, wasn't a good hire, but that was the situation. Nobody was lining up for the job. And it didn't take long for that to turn into a failure on the field, but firing Pruitt without cause would have been expensive. And it was around that time that Tennessee fortuitously learned, egads, that there was cheating at aplenty going on. He does not like Tennessee. I mean, if you just read this article, man, he does not like Tennessee. After an internal investigation uncovered a lot of dirt, the school had the ammo to fire Pruitt for cause and for free. It also had more than enough reason to shove Fulmer back into retirement and hire a real athletic director. That turned out to be Danny White. Man, Danny White has done a great job. And he brought Josh Heupel a surprise 7-6 record, which disappointed Pat Forday to no end, then 11-2, which just, man, he must have been crying over that. After getting both the AD and coach hires very wrong, Tennessee got them very right on the do-over. Well, he's right about that. And he says, and what many viewed as a cost-saving measure aimed at firing Pruitt cheaply turned into an unforeseen benefit. The internal investigation was deemed exemplary cooperation by the NCAA. So in other words, the cooperation, handing over the evidence, doing everything right was only because we were trying to get rid of Pruitt without paying him, and we just lucked up into this. It wasn't the folks at the University of Tennessee doing the right thing. No, we cannot give them that benefit of a doubt. Without that, a postseason ban would have been more seriously considered and perhaps applied. Or so the committee said Friday. In reality, I suspect the last postseason ban has been given in big-time college sport. Luckless Oklahoma State got it and has watched every center of the past 3 years skate away with something less. And I knew there'd be a little ending smack upside the head before he left. Man, this guy does not like the Vols. Woo! Man, it just, our existence upsets him. I can tell you that. Now let's talk frankly about it. As I said many times over the last several months, they did everything they could do once they found out about it. This business of the university knew he was handing out $60,000 over a 2-year period of time in $1,000 increments in little Chick-fil-A bags. The reason they were in those bags is so nobody would know. It was cash. If you think the University of Tennessee, running a billion-dollar university, is knowing about, oh, somebody got a little bag of cash,
are you stupid or something?
Give me a break. I would not expect anybody at a university, especially the athletic director or the president, to know about that. As a matter of fact, the reason they're put in those bags is so they won't know about it. You just stick it in your pocket and you're done. So that's ridiculous. They did go ahead and penalize themselves. They did everything right, and they're going to come out really good on this. Yeah, they got to pay $8-9 million, but they saved $12 million on Coach Pruitt. Didn't have to pay him. And probably won't have to because he got hit with a 6-year show cause. I thought he was going to get a 5-year show cause. They hit him with 6 because he didn't cooperate. So be it. They hammered him. And that's hard for Alabama too because they really want him. They really do, but it's not going to happen. He'd even have to, even if they hired him with cause, he'd still sit out for a year. So that's not going to work out for him. So anyway, I did want to cover this. We've also got Braylon Russell that's going to be committing tonight at 7:45. That has been a boondoggle because we've had Steve Wiltfong came out and put a crystal ball out last 24 hours, then immediately pulled it down, and he had just talked to him about an article that he wrote. So it's really been tricky. And then Braylon Russell put out a big picture of him in a UT uniform. Arkansas went crazy. So it's all been a huge mess. And, of course, then this news broke with, 3 hours notice, I think is what we were given, because the NCAA doesn't care. And if they were going to drop it, they were going to drop it on a Friday. That's what you do. It's a news dump. It makes it not go viral. Well, this was going to go viral no matter what because it's, it's Tennessee, it's the NCAA, it's what everybody's been talking about for 2 years, especially people like Pat Forday. He was just over there like, oh, we got them. We're going to get them. They're going to get a bowl ban and worse. Too bad, Pat. Didn't happen. Anyway, I'm mighty glad of it. And Tennessee, look, you know what they did? They went in there and fought that institutional control and whatnot, and they weren't going to have it. And I actually showed you a little video footage of the Vols defending themselves against the NCAA, and here it is.
You can do what you want to us, but we're not going to sit here and listen to you bad-mouth the United States of America. Gentlemen!
Exactly. We're not going to sit here while you badmouth the United States of America or our Vols. Anyway, it's over. Pat Forday, too bad, and no bowl ban. And we're going to be just fine. Got 10 scholarships we've got to give up over the next 5 years, 2 a year. Whoopity-doo. Not that big a deal. Just keep your nose clean. And I'm not concerned about that with Josh Heupel. He's got the GPA at 3.15, which is the best it's ever been in football, which tells me our culture problem is solved for the most part. Yeah, look, anything can happen. I understand that. But I don't think we're going to end up in a situation like Alabama and Georgia's had, where that has been a huge mess down there. So anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols and SEC and all that good stuff. If you've not subscribed, it's on your right, my left. Just hit that little button. I'd appreciate it. And right over here's the most recent video. Be sure to check that out. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.